The time and the tide wait for no one in the Tomales Bay. The moon dictates the work schedule. So even when the fog rolls over Hog Island, the oyster harvest bags on.
It's a lot of labor in a place that sometimes isn't really nice. Like, it's a nice evening out here now, but when it's 40 knots blowing and raining sideways, it's not a lot of fun.
This is the Hog Island Oyster Fields, and John Finger is the co-founder and farmer.
The technical term is a mariculturist.
A mariculturist.
So in aquaculture, right? You talk about aquaculture. Mariculture is aquaculture in the sea.
John knows a thing or two about the oyster business. He and his co-founder, Terry Sawyer, planted their first oyster seeds in this very spot back in 1983.
You know, we get growth almost year-round here, but see this leading edge? That's like putting another ring down of a tree.
An oyster is a mollusk, but in a way, they're a lot like a tree. When they're young, oysters go through a seed stage, and when they grow up, they filter water, just like a tree filters air. So these guys are actually cleaning the water.
Yes, exactly. You know, there's a lot of areas of the world now where they're trying to put more oysters back into bays just for the purposes of making the bay healthier.
After about 2 years of cleaning the Tomales Bay, the Hog Island oysters take a vacation of sorts. So from here, they're going on like a little oyster roller coaster ride up here.
They're on their way to the oyster spa.
Matt McKinnon is retail manager, and he's going to show me how the cleaning process works. This is a very fast-paced kind of thing.
It is very fast-paced. Yeah, they're just like listening. There's a lot of noise going on.
It takes a lot of practice and a good ear to distinguish a dead oyster from a live one.
If you kind of like knock them, you can hear if they're hollow.
During peak season, these guys can sort up to 60,000 oysters in one day. And only the finest oysters make it to the oyster spa. So they hang out in here for 24 hours.
24 hours.
Get that mud and stuff
Yep.
out. So then when I eat it,
it's all super clean.
If you ask me, the best part of oyster harvest is quality control. When does an oyster become not fresh? How many days?
I mean, generally about 4 to 5 days if you keep them well iced or refrigerated.
After shucking the oyster, it's customary to give the meat a little flip in the shell before flicking it in your mouth.
And then if you need to, you can give it a little finger skip. Yep. Taste the ocean.
It's salty.
It's the merroir.
The merroir. Merroir is just a fancy word for the location that the oysters were grown in.
Oysters will be reflective of whatever bay they're grown in.
The time and the tide wait for no one in the Tomales Bay. And because of that, the unique taste of its waters is reflected in the oysters that live here. So the next time you slurp down an oyster, remind yourself how hard it was to harvest them. From the oyster fields of Tomales Bay, I'm John Bartell. Hope to see you on the Backroads.